Hey guys, it's the WalterFootball.com After Dark show for February 22nd, 2024. We're going to be discussing lots of politics. No, just kidding. We just did that off camera before the show started. We're going to be talking about the NFL salary cap, discuss the Super Bowl because I haven't talked to Kenny in it feels like 3 weeks or something. And then get into some TV shows I've been watching or Kenny's been watching. I don't know if Kenny's been watching anything, but we'll definitely talk about it. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that mean a lot to us. And if you really want to help support the show, we have super chats. So we get no money through YouTube ads. I say this all the time. They pay us like $1.50 per episode, which like used to be able to buy like 3 cheeseburgers from McDonald's, and like now you can't even get one from that. So any super chat donations would really be appreciated. But yeah, we're joined by Kenny Ortiz, the president of thecapisfake.com. Kenny, how are you?
Oh, brother, I'm feeling great. We were just talking politics before we got on. You know, I think most people who listen to you probably can pick up, probably know, right? Anyway, but that's another conversation. I just think the world is in a great place. That's sarcasm, but I'm feeling great. I was sick. I was really sick the week of the Super Bowl. Mike, shout out to Mike. I was really sick the week of the Super Bowl, and so we did not record. So it was a bummer. I didn't get a chance to talk. We didn't get a chance to talk DraftKings. I had like this terrible stomach bug, and I had these terrible smelling burps. I know but is that too much information? So anyway, I went to a doctor, had a virus. They didn't give me anything. They were like, sorry. And I just then went home and got better on my own. So anyway, that was my week.
Well, glad you're feeling better. I also had a stomach bug. It happened the night of the college football championship. Like I was watching the game and everything, and like the game ended, and like they're doing the trophy celebration. So I felt like, oh man, I really got to go to the bathroom. So I ran to the bathroom, and it's like everything emptied out, and I'm like, oh man. And it's like, and then it felt worse. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to throw up. Like, and then I have to throw up. I threw up like 8 times that night, and like my throat hurt for like 3 weeks. From that. It was just a nasty bug. I don't know what I had, but it was a 24-hour sort of deal. So I don't know how long it lasted for you, but it was pretty brutal for those 24 hours. But I can definitely I know what you're going through. So like I said, glad you're feeling better.
Yeah.
But I think people know where I stand politically. It's funny because I always say like I'm the most libertarian person anyone will ever meet. And then I took this political test, and it said I took this a couple of nights ago, and it said like my tests were like my liberty score was higher than average libertarian. I'm like, this makes sense. So I sent it to you, and you took it, and then your liberty score is even higher than mine. I was really pissed off about
that. I couldn't believe it. I'm like this. I'm like, I got to take the test again. I got to take the quiz again because I'm not sure. So anyway, but my wife took it. She's not a libertarian. She's much more like purity conservative. So
yeah, my purity score is like 30%. So low.
If anyone was interested, like there are these weird quiz questions. It was like measuring like, you know, how you would, it wasn't just like asking your opinion on politics. It was like asking you in this situation, how would you respond? And I thought it was actually because like you don't know how to answer the question. You don't know how they're measuring the answer. So I thought it was an interesting quiz. Anyway, if anyone's ever interested, maybe you can tweet it out or something.
We have Bagley asking what quiz this was. I'm going to pull it up real fast. It is it's called IDR Labs, and then Moral Foundations Test. I'll type it in here. They basically ask you like 30 questions. Moral Foundations Test. They ask you 30 questions. They're all randomized. And like you basically vote on like, so here's the first question. Tom and Linda have been dating for almost a year. Since they've never agreed to be exclusive, Tom sleeps with other women without telling Linda. So you vote not okay. Like it should be 3 thumbs down. It works better on the phone, I think. And then 3 thumbs up, and you have a neutral here. And so you basically have like a sliding scale. Like there are 36 questions. They're all randomized. I don't know if you got this one,
I
Kenny,
did.
but You did? Okay, yeah. I got this one too, but it wasn't the first one.
It wasn't it wasn't the first one for either either.
Yeah, so they randomized the questions. So it's a cool test, and then you get to see where you are. So I got my score says I am 72% care, 42% loyalty, 64% fairness, 33% authority, which makes sense. Purity 36%, liberty 92%. So it says I'm a libertarian. So not a surprise, and it worked. Yeah.
So like Tom and Linda have been dating for almost a year. They've never agreed to be exclusive. I'm like, well, kind of like, listen, Linda, if you don't want Tom sleeping with other people, then you got to make that like, you never agreed. Like, listen, you're not married. You're just dating. Like, listen, like I'm not someone, I wouldn't sleep around if I were in Tom's situation, but like, we're not asking what I would do. We're asking whether or not it's appropriate for Tom to do it. Right.
Right. And it's not like they're married or anything,
Right.
you know. They're like, what if Tom meets his soulmate or something like that? You know, like I'm definitely okay with it.
Yeah.
I think provided like, you know, he tells her and stuff, or like if it's a one-time thing, it's whatever. But like if he's going to be dating, if he wants to date this woman, then like break up with her, and like, you know, I think it's totally fine. So
listen, Linda, like my mom once said,
okay,
listen, why would a man buy the cow if he can get the milk for free? So
right.
Listen, you want Tom to be exclusive, don't give him the milk for free.
Exactly. Quacky Tom or another Tom. We'll have to ask Tom tomorrow if he's dating someone named Linda. Sue says one of the questions asking what a licked boot tastes like. Yeah, I think some people would definitely know that. So, I think maybe one episode we'll be able to do this quiz or something like that. But we had some questions yesterday about the salary cap and stuff like that. But before we get to that, I wanted to I've been talking to you about the Super Bowl. I don't know what you play on DraftKings. I don't know how you did. I don't know what you thought of the game. I don't know who you thought would win the game. Like, I really have no idea what you thought of the game. I haven't really talked to you since then, outside of sending you this link to this test. So how'd you do in the Super Bowl? What do you think of the game? Like what are your thoughts?
And you've also sent me some random Instagram reels, and I sent you some tweets. So anyway, that was fun. Anyway, I thought the game was entertaining. I was rooting for the Chiefs, and I may or may not have had some vested interest in the Chiefs players. I did not cash any of the lineups I played. I didn't do a bunch of lineups. It was showdown slate, so I think I did I had like 15 lineups, and none of them cashed. So I did that's okay. Small the contest. Like the $1 contest, $3 contest, those kind of things. Single or 3 entry max was one of the contests. So, but I didn't cash anything. Maybe I made a cash one, but so I didn't do it. But the problem is, it's like in some of those showdown slates, like those players are just like so like the scores are so tightly, like something so minimal could have one of my lineups finished in like 1,000th place, and like one major difference could have gone from 1,000th place to like 80th place. Like, the scoring was not very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not widespread. Is that the right word?
Right. Yeah. It's pretty tight. Yeah.
So it's like, I barely I was like, I just I finished 2 points behind cashing, but I finished like 700 spots behind cashing. It was like this like weird phenomenon. I had a bunch of Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy didn't throw touchdowns. And so I realized that to cash, you needed to not have a lot of Brock Purdy because who knew Juwan Jennings was going to be the star of the Super Bowl? So I don't think I had Jennings in a single lineup. Did you?
No, I kind of reviewed the slate with Tom about a week ago, and you can only enter 150 lineups max per contest. I said to Tom, if I had like 1,500 entries, I don't think I would have gotten Jennings in a single lineup. Like, it was not like he was $200 or $1,000. He was priced at $4,000. Like, this is expensive, and I feel like he was not a good play at all. Like, he had 2 double-digit DK fantasy point performances throughout the whole year, and I think both were, or no, one was against the Eagles. Surprise, surprise, against the Eagles secondary. The other was against Minnesota when Deebo Samuel was out. And I thought that, like, remember that one game I think it was against the Lions or the Packers. Maybe it was against the Packers when people didn't think Samuel was going to play or something like that. No, it was against the Lions, right? Remember, people were like, "Oh, Samuel might be out." And I think we did. We talked about how Juwan Jennings was going to be a good play if Samuel was out, but Samuel ended up playing, so we never got to him. So like going to the Super Bowl, if it was like Samuel is iffy to play, like I'm like, okay, yeah, it makes sense to play Jennings at 4,000. But like Jennings just did not produce at all throughout the whole year and the playoffs. Like I said, only 2 games where he had double-digit performances, and one was without Samuel. So it's like, how do people get to this guy at 4,000? Like I could have never have gotten to him in a million years. So I'm glad I didn't enter 1,500 lineups. Let's say that I entered I entered 12 and like 3 cash or something like that. Because like I didn't have Samuel. I didn't have Jennings. I didn't have Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I played some Jerick McKinnon who only caught 1 pass. I played I tried Sky Moore because he was super cheap. I wanted to have Kadarius Toney in there, but he was scratched, so I moved to someone else. I think I moved to the who's the backup tight end for the Chiefs? It was
not Watson.
Yeah, it was Noah Gray. So I moved to him. I just didn't get to MBS because I just don't like him. And then I like I said, I could not have gotten to Jennings at all. So you needed both to win the $1 million, and someone won the $1 million. And he had the same exact lineup as like a bunch of other people, except he had Mahomes a captain instead of McCaffrey. He just flipped the two. Like if he had put McCaffrey a captain and Mahomes in the flex, he would have split the pot with like 20 people or 25 people. But instead, he went Mahomes captain and McCaffrey flex, and he won the whole thing by himself.
That's excellent.
Yeah,
I love it. I like when a guy wins it by himself. Like your entire life is different now, right? I mean, that's remarkable.
Yeah. I mean, he instead like if he split the pot with all those other people, he would have won like 40 grand, which is it's great. But like he won $1 million on his own, so it's pretty phenomenal. And yeah, but like I said, I just don't know how he got to Jennings and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Like he played off the top of my head. He played Mahomes captain, McCaffrey, Kelsey, and I think Purdy. And then the 2 guys, Jennings and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I think that was his lineup.
Right.
Yeah. So.
The other major controversy that people talked about. First, I mean, 2 things. Patrick Mahomes is just so good. He's so entertaining. He's the kind of guy, like, this is why I like watching sports. I like watching sport. I like watching great players do great things. I find that entertaining. And so, yeah, I'm not the kind of guy that roots for the underdog or the no-name guy. I want great players to play great. That's my favorite thing to do. I love watching great players do great things. And Mahomes is a great player. He is, I don't know about you, in my mind, he is easily the 2nd greatest quarterback of all time at this point. And it's just Brady and him, and that's kind of where I rank. I don't know if you agree with that or not, or if you think he needs to do more. And I think Mahomes is well on his way to surpassing Brady. So that's kind of that was my first thought was Mahomes. The second thing I was going to mention was the overtime. But anyway, your thoughts on Mahomes versus Brady, and does he need to do much more, or do you feel like does he have to win 7 Super Bowls to match Brady, or can he win less and still be considered the GOAT?
He's not even halfway there, right? And like he's almost halfway there, right? So I don't think you can say he's better than Brady at this point. I think ability wise, he's better than Brady. Like his arm's better. He's obviously more mobile. Brady cerebrally was amazing, but so is Mahomes. Mahomes, it's like a photograph of memory and everything like that, and he's a really smart guy. But I think the longevity with Brady is crazy. Like what's amazing about Brady is that, remember, Brady and Manning used to have those rivalries, like go back and forth. All those every year they played against each other in the regular season, and usually in the playoffs they played against each other. And so they entered the league like sort of around the same time. Manning in '98, Brady in 2000. Brady became a starter in 2001. But Manning retired after 2015. But if you look at Brady's career from after 2016 to the end of his career, that by itself is a Hall of Fame career.
He won 3 Super Bowls and went to 4, right?
He went to the one he lost was to the Eagles, of course, Nick Foles. So yeah, like that on its own is a Hall of Fame career. Like if you just erase everything that happened in the Manning Brady rivalry, like that is insane. I really think that's crazy. So
I mean,
uh,
there used to be major debates on whether who was better, Brady or Manning, and I was often on the Manning uh train, but like I clearly was wrong. Like, like Brady's like resume is just remarkable.
yeah, I mean, you could say that the Manning like physically was the better quarterback.
Right? He had the better, like the stronger arm, the more
Right.
accurate
Yeah.
passer.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that I think you can make the case that Peyton Manning is the best regular season quarterback of all time. But like in the playoffs, he just like he folded a lot. Like even the first Super Bowl he won with the Colts, or the only one he won with the Colts. He played against the Bears and Rex Grossman, and like there are a lot of like that year. I feel like they got a little lucky. And then the second Super Bowl he won, like he was the weak link of that team. It was the Denver defense that really carried them there. And he had a noodle arm at that point, and his neck was gone. Like that gave him a lot of problems. So in the playoffs, he just never lived up to expectations for the
Yeah.
most part.
I
But
will give him
regular
credit
season,
though.
was amazing. Yeah.
In that Super Bowl against the Bears, but in the AFC title game at halftime, they were down 17 points, and he did rally them back
Yep.
in that fourth quarter. I mean, the 2006 AFC title game, I guess it would have been January of 07, when Manning came back on Brady. That might be the greatest game Manning ever played. He was great in that game.
Yeah, that was one of my worst beats of all time because I had Patriots plus 3.5, and they were up by 17. They lost by 4. So
That is a bad beat.
I was really sad about that.
Those are one of those moments you're just like, I remember. I mean, here we are, 17 years later. I remember that, like, I remember vividly that game. It was just, it was remarkable. So,
Yeah.
anyway, okay. The second thing I was going to ask you about was the overtime. Now, Kyle Shanahan, they win the coin toss and they elect to take the ball, and this seems to be controversial on Twitter. People were saying how stupid this was, and I think you can make obviously, like, I probably would have I probably would have kicked off there and taken the ball second. But I actually understand the strategy. With the overtime rules. So, like, I actually think it's defensible what Kyle Shanahan did there, and I was curious your take.
Jacob had the stats. He said teams that take the ball first in these rules. I don't know how he got this number, but he said the team that takes the ball first has a 50.4% chance of winning. So it's a slight edge. I think that I forget who made the case, made the point on here. So forgive me. If you're listening, just feel free to take credit. But they said that taking the ball first allows your defense to rest. And, given that it's overtime, your defense is going to be exhausted. So I think there's something to that. Also, the third possession in overtime, like it didn't happen in this game, but it could easily have happened. So I think I'd rather have the ball first personally. Now, I think that like the team that gets the ball second has an advantage in that they know what to do. Because had the Chiefs taken the ball first, would they have been as aggressive? No, they wouldn't have been.
They're not going for it on fourth down twice, right?
Right. Yeah, they would have settled for a field goal probably, and then the Niners would have had a chance to win with the touchdown.
Right.
But like, who knows if the Niners would have scored a touchdown? So if they scored a field goal, then the Chiefs would have had a huge advantage because all they needed was the field goal after that.
Right.
So I could see it both ways. I don't think any team is really wrong for doing that. I think if you have a great defense that is tired, I think that you want the ball first to give them rest. Outside of that, I think it's basically a coin flip. So I don't think you can go wrong either way.
Yeah, I thought to myself, getting the ball third makes sense. I said to someone on Twitter, like, I mean, the Niners had just the Chiefs had scored one touchdown in regulation the entire game. They scored one touchdown. The Chiefs were in the red zone. They got down or inside the 25 5 times in the game. They walked away with 3 field goals, a turnover, and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're the Niners, like you're like, hey, I have confidence that we're going to be able to stop them because we've been doing it all game. I mean, they for the most part, the Niners contained the Chiefs, and so I totally understand the defense resting. They had scored, the final 4 possessions for the Niners was I think it was like touchdown, punt, touchdown, field goal, or something like that. And like if you're Kyle Shanahan, of course you think to yourself, there's a chance that you could score a touchdown in that position. So I don't know. I didn't think it was egregious. I think I probably still would have kicked the ball off and taken the ball second, but I think I understand the argument. And if the Chiefs score a field goal there, then the Niners get the ball the third possession, a field goal wins the game. Like I think that's a huge advantage potentially in that scenario. So yeah. Anyway, I was curious what you thought.
Yeah, I wasn't mad about it either way. What I thought really stood out was some of the players didn't know the rules. And also some people thought that the game would end if the time expired in the first overtime, where like there was no 2-minute warning, like which kind of should have given it away. And like the ref said it's a new game, right? So first quarter, why would the game end after the first quarter?
Yeah.
So
and like the game's gonna end in a tie,
right? It's just so stupid.
Here are the last four drives in regulation for each team. The Chiefs, the last 4 drives was touchdown, punt, field goal. Like if you're the Niners, you're thinking the last 3 drives, like they haven't scored a touchdown in the last 3 possessions. Like you would imagine you have a chance. The Niners' last 4 drives were punt, touchdown, field goal. It's like if you're Shanahan, you're like, we're gonna score. We're gonna get the ball. We're gonna score. Like I understand it was defensible.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're getting both arguments here. Slew says I wouldn't want to give the ball to give Mahomes 4 downs with the game on the line, and then Bagley says, yeah, it's all about getting the ball third in case both teams get the same score on their initial drive. That's such a huge advantage that the information about what you need is negligible. Yeah, I think you can make cases for both. And Mike's asking, here's one I haven't heard yet. If you get the ball first and score a touchdown, do you go for 2? My thought was if the Niners scored a touchdown, would the Chiefs have gone for 2 if they scored a touchdown?
Man, that's ballsy. I mean, that's you gotta. I don't know that I don't think I have the courage. I don't think I could do it.
Well, I think you have to weigh it. Like what do you have better odds of doing? You have a better odds of Mahomes scoring from the 2-yard line on one play, or do you have a better chance of preventing the Niners from kicking a field goal when your defense is exhausted in like almost double overtime?
That's actually really. So if the Niners have gone down and scored a touchdown and they scored 7, the Chiefs go down and score a touchdown, and now they've got you're saying because if they miss the 2, they lose the Super Bowl. If they make the 2, they win it. Like so, the probability is you're better. You have a better shot of getting the 2-point conversion than stopping them on the field goal the other end.
Yeah, and I think if you kick the extra point, you're probably going to lose. Like I think you're an underdog at that point. So I'd rather have the ball in the hands of the best player in the NFL, as you said, the second best quarterback of all time. I still think Joe Montana is in the conversation. You know, it's 4 Super Bowls compared to Mahomes' 3. I think I'm not old enough. We're the same age. Like we're not old enough to fully remember Montana in his prime.
Right now, yeah.
So like it's tough for me to say if Mahomes is better than Montana, but like I think that you could definitely make the case that Mahomes is number 3 overall. So I had a bad beat as in the Super Bowl. I had the winning side for the spread, but in Raymakers I had a legendary lineup it was McCaffrey, Mahomes, Kelsey, and Pacheco. And like there were only like 150 people in this contest or something. And first place was 100K. I was not getting a first place because I had the same lineup as 2 other people, and they had the same lineup. Oh, they had the same lineup I did, but they had a better they had a better score, zero number score for the players. Scores, yeah. Right. So I was like the best I could do was third. But third was still 20K. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. So like when the Chiefs got to the 3-yard line, I was looking at everyone's score at the top, and like I was like, oh crap! If Pacheco scores the touchdown here, I'm gonna win 20K. And of course, like Mahomes throws a touchdown to Hardman.
Hardman.
Yeah, Hardman. So I think Hardman was in the winning lineup, not MBS. Sorry about that. So so like that was the loser for me. If Pacheco scored a touchdown, I would have won 20K, but I did not, unfortunately. So so the third, I got like 7th or 8th, which is like not even close to 20K. So
bad beat.
Yeah.
I am not promoting gambling. I want to make it very clear. I'm just saying the Chiefs money line may or may not have been the thing I would have been promoting.
I had Chiefs. I had Chiefs +1 +100. I think that's the best line I found.
Nice.
Yeah, the bookmaker had that. A couple comments here. Sleuth said the DK winner won $1 million before Uncle Sam takes his cut plus his home state. Well, hopefully his home state's Florida or Texas or something like that, where there's no state. The state doesn't take anything. Actually, I don't know if the state takes gambling. I don't know. Like you would know better than me.
I think. Well, I don't know. Actually, it's a good question. I don't know.
He could. I mean, if he claims he's a DFS player, he could call that income, right? And then they wouldn't take it.
Yeah, I guess it's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I would do. I'd be like, I'm a DFS player professionally. It's my income. So yeah. Yeah, it sucks. Sorry, bad beat for Uncle Sam taking your money. You put all the risk into it, and of course the government takes the money. They don't incur any risk, of course.
But Walter, don't you know? Without the government controlling everything, you won't be able to play DFS.
Oh my God, yes, you're right. How I can't believe I was so misguided. You're right.
That's the voice of the people right there. Did you hear that?
Yes. Bagley says, if you put every NFL player in history into a draft in an alternate universe, we have the knowledge of what their careers look like in this universe. Who gets taken first? Obviously Mahomes. I mean, he's certainly the conversation, right? Like it's Mahomes, Brady, or Montana, right? You go one of those three, and I think you go Brady over Montana. So the question is Mahomes or Brady, and Mahomes is more talented than Brady, and like we don't know what Mahomes' second half of his career is going to be like.
Exactly.
What if he's stuck on 3 Super Bowls? Like then you say I don't think you can say he's better than Brady, but like he still has Andy Reid. Like he's going to be in position to first three-peat ever. If he gets the first three-peat ever, like you can make the case that he's better than Brady. So, it's a tough question, but I think Mahomes is certainly a conversation.
It's an interesting bag. By the way, I love this comment. This is fantastic. I just, as you said, I don't. Montana was great before I was watching football. His greatest games were. Although the first Super Bowl I ever remember watching was Super Bowl 23, Niners Bengals, but I was young. I mean, I was like, whatever, that was like 1989, right, or something like that, or 80, or 1980. I was like 6, 7 years, but I remember watching the game. But anyway, yeah, to me, I think the answer is Mahomes, but it's hard. You couldn't argue. Someone saying Brady is hard. It's impossible to argue against, right?
Yeah, I don't think you can argue it. The first Super Bowl I ever watched was Bills Redskins, which was in 92, so it was the 91 season.
26, Super Bowl 26.
Yeah, so we were both 9 then, so that's when I first got into sports. It was like 9. Yeah. Mike says Brady always had 3 chump teams in the AFC East. Broncos and Chargers could challenge Mahomes and the Chiefs real soon. Yeah, we'll see. I'm pretty confident in the Chargers. I don't know about the Broncos. Like they have no quarterback, but the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh coaching up Justin Herbert, and I think the Chargers are going to be a force. And don't forget the Raiders defense. Like if they find a quarterback somehow, like they trade for Justin Fields or they sign Kirk Cousins, like suddenly the Raiders are going to be a good team because they had a great defense last year. But don't forget the Brady went against Mark Sanchez those couple of years.
That's right. In the early 2000s, I mean, the Bills had some formidable teams. They had some really good defenses in that era. Their offense was never great. The Rob Johnson, Doug Flutie era wasn't exactly a prime offensive powerhouse, but the Dolphins were good for a while in that era. I don't know. I think I've heard people say that they were chumps. I don't think it was as bad as the Jets defenses were good for a stretch there. And then, yeah, in the playoffs, the Ravens were been very competitive in that era. Obviously, the Colts with Peyton Manning. I don't know. I think it's better than people make it out to be. Yeah,
the Dolphins had Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor. Like those guys are awesome. Sue says, I like to see present day quarterbacks play in the 60s and 90s when they would get obliterated on any play. Yeah. They would not have those illegal contact rules. They'd get clotheslined, and like there's no penalty for that. Hits the head, like whatever,
It's a totally different era. It was impossible to compare, right? They're so different.
I know. It's crazy. Yeah. I really wonder how they would have done. I mean, obviously Mahomes would be great, but like some of these other mediocre quarterbacks, they might have a tough time lasting, All right, so I wanted to get to something with the salary cap real fast. We had some questions here yesterday about the Saints salary cap situation, and how long this could possibly last, and like,
it's so good. They're the best at this.
Yeah, they're 83 million over the cap right now. If you're listening and not watching, the Bills are 55 million over. Like that's bad, but the Saints are 83 million over, and like they don't have a Josh Allen to kind of neutralize that. They have Derek Carr. So, what are the Saints doing here? Are they like, can they keep kicking the can down the road, as we say? And the main question was, when they finally do have to bite the bullet, as you said in the past, like eventually these teams do have to do that. How long will it last if they keep kicking the can down the road, like forever? Like, I feel like this has gone on for a decade, really. Like since the Drew Brees second half of his tenure in the Saints, they've been kicking the can down the road, and they're still doing it for some reason, even though they have no chance of winning the Super Bowl with Derek Carr. So, I mean, what is your analysis of this situation with the Saints?
The Saints are the most egregious abusers of the salary cap. I mean, my beloved Eagles are in the running, but the Saints, this is like a master class in manipulating the cap. And so, like, if people don't know, like, the capisfake.com, it's my website. Like, when I say the cap is fake, I don't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means like it's just so easily manipulatable. Is that a word? Manipulatable, a word? I don't know. It's so easily manipulated. The question comes down to, it just it takes cash, and some owners are not like the Bengals. The Bengals are never going to manipulate the cap because their owner doesn't want to lay the cash out. So it's like, right. Like the real like it's not about the salary cap. It's about the real cash an owner wants to spend. And like just for example, like this year, I forget the exact number. In 2023, like the Browns spent like $100 million more than the Packers in real cash. Like, so it's like there's a salary cap, but like, oh, they have to spend the same amount. But you can manipulate the cap so much so that like you have teams spending $100 million more than the other. It's because the owners don't care. The Packers will never do that because they don't have a singular owner. They're the only team owned by a public trust. The citizens of Green Bay own the team basically, and so like they're not going to shell out the cash to do it, so they're never going to be in that situation. Or the Bengals are never going to do it because the Bengals owner is just a cheap, SOB. And so but as long as the Saints ownership is like, yeah, we don't care, we'll spend we'll throw around 50 million, 100 million, whatever, we don't care. Like they basically can do it indefinitely, like, which is just sort of it's just ridiculous. Like it's just sort of the scenario. And I guess who am I to tell a billionaire how to spend his money? I don't know. Like, you want to throw around $50 to $100 million a year extra for waste? Okay. Like, it's not my money. I don't know. Like, who am I to tell the guy that he can't do that? Like, if the Browns want to spend a bunch of money, on, pedophile Deshaun Watson, sorry, not pedophile.
Pedophile. That's sorry, I've never heard that.
sorry, wrong, whatever, molester, abuser Watson. Like, who am I to tell them they can't do that? So like, at the end of the day, like, I don't know how long you could do this. Like, as long as he wants to spend cash, they're going to have a lot of runway. So like, maybe at some point they just like, okay, they literally can't do it anymore. But like, I think the bottom line is the Saints are showing you can do it much longer than people will think. I mean, they were over the cap by like whatever 50 million last year, and they spent how much money on Derek Carr?
Right.
And so, the people don't know how do they do this. It's all about dummy years. So the Saints they're the biggest abusers of this. So like the Derek Carr contract was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like it's technically a 7-year contract, but the last 3 years of the deal are dummy years. So like it's really just a 4-year contract, but they add 3 years just so that they have an extra 3 years to spread the money out over. So, I don't know how long they can pull it off. It seems like they shouldn't be able to do it, but like they're just like willing to spend the money, and that gives them the leeway to be able to do it. So, yeah, it's sort of a funny scenario, and I think it's kind of a big FU to everyone who's like, if you're a Bengals fan, right? If you're a poor Bengals fan, and your ownership is like, oh, we can't spend the money on players because we have to let T. Higgins walk because of the salary cap. He's basically just like he's playing you for a fool, because if he wanted to sign T. Higgins, he could. He just doesn't want to spend the money. Meanwhile, the Saints are like $83 million over the salary cap, and they're probably going to spend more money this fall, like this summer,
right?
Which is just the nature of the beast right now.
Yeah, and they're going to finish 8-9 or 9-8 again.
What was that?
And they're going to finish 8 or 9 or 9-8 again.
Right. But some owners, like, it's hard to be in the mind of, if I was a billionaire, what would I do? I don't know. If I was a billionaire, I probably would spend a lot of money doing dumb things. I don't know. Who knows? I would go buy a small island somewhere and be by myself. But I mean, like the salary cap, like Mike just made a comment here. The salary cap is projected to go up over $32 million this year, which is one of the biggest jumps in history, like percentage wise. Like, just like, I don't know. So it's hard to argue with like teams that want to do whatever they like. Listen, again, if a billionaire wants to waste his money, who am I to tell him not to waste his money?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, eventually, it'll come to a head, right? It did for the Rams, right? They had to blow everything up. And won't that happen to the Saints? Like, it's like if they keep doing this, eventually they're going to be $150 million over, and so they're going to have to spend so much to kind of offset that. Won't they?
You have to spend a certain amount of cash to get out of the situation,
right?
And at some point, the owner is going to be like, okay, I don't want to spend the money. But when does that come? Like, when does that moment come? He's a billionaire. I don't know. He's got a lot of money to mess with.
So that was the question we had yesterday. I think Slew asked it. He said, like, if the Saints keep doing this eventually, and like they're like 150 million over hypothetically in a few years, and then
it's so ridiculous,
right? And then at that point, the owner's like, all right, let's and he's like, this team's not that good. Let's just blow it up. Let's tank for a quarterback. Like, are they going to be in a horrible situation for a couple years, like a few years, instead of like 1 year, like the Rams were, because they kicked the can for so long? Or is it just, could it be a swift recovery? Like, how's that look? Do you know?
I mean, I think it all depends on if you get the quarterback. Like,
right.
I mean, that's the game changer. Like, if they do tank and there's this, generational talent, Andrew Luck or a Mahomes, Peyton Manning, whatever, it's and you get that guy. I mean, we've seen it over and over again. A great quarterback covers up a lot of stuff. I mean, the Chiefs just won a Super Bowl with MVS and Mecole Hardman as their receiver. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that team has no business winning a Super Bowl with those. I mean, they got Travis Kelce. I mean, that's a big deal, obviously. But like the quarterback I think it all depends on the quarterback. Like if you can get the right quarterback, I think you can turn it around pretty quickly. But if you don't, then you're in fact, the smartest thing to do is probably wait for the year where there's a surefire talent coming out. Like this would have been the year. Like, okay, if you really think Caleb Williams is great, this would have been the year to do it. Like, okay, let's just tank this whole year, go 0-17 and go get the quarterback. Like, but they didn't do that. They went and spent money on Derek Carr, which I don't understand that. Like, not only are you spending money to get out of the hole, but you're spending it on Derek Carr. Like, so I think the situation is who they're spending the money on, right?
Right. Right. And the Rams still had Matthew Stafford too. Something the Rams did though to really help themselves was they drafted so well. And it's not like they had a first round pick. They nailed so many mid-round picks, like Puka Nacua, for example. They had a bunch of defensive players who were mid-round picks who really stepped up. So their mastery of the draft really helped them rebound. And
I mean, that's in every sport, right? If you draft
yeah,
well, your team's going to be good. I mean,
yeah.
and everything else you can kind of figure out along the way.
Mhm.
But dude, so many teams. I mean, you cover the draft better than anyone. I mean, you know way more than I do. Most teams suck at the draft, and maybe just drafting is harder. Maybe I shouldn't say they suck. Maybe just evaluating talent is hard, and maybe some guys just suck at it. I don't know.
We have a super chat here from Kevin Kovac, $25. Thank you so much, Kevin. Really appreciate it. Like I said, these YouTube ads pay nothing. Like this like contributions like this like really help us out here. He says, I still don't feel like I've contributed enough for your content after all these years. I'm glad I had the opportunity now to give back, especially for your quality material. Hope to see you keep growing. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Let's go, Kevin. That's right.
Yeah, it really means a lot. Yeah. So, thank you so much. It's the YouTube. I'm not joking here when I say YouTube ads pay nothing. It's like the guy you made $1 from this video. It's like, okay, thanks. But yeah, Kevin, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that drafting is difficult because if you even look at the top GMs in the NFL, like Ozzie Newsome was known as one of the best GMs in the NFL. He made several first round busts, like look at Rashad Bateman, for example. Like he's
Kyle
drafted.
Bowler.
Yeah, Kyle Bowler, Hayden Hurst was the first round pick of his. Like he's had misses, and yet like historically, like just look at the hit rate for his draft picks. Like he's up there. So teams draft busts all the time. And so, it is difficult to draft well. But like the ability to hit mid-round picks like the Rams did, like especially when they didn't have any first-round picks, I think that was so crucial for them to bounce back. So if the Saints could do that, and they get the quarterback, then yeah, I agree that it's not going to last. Them bottoming out, it's not going to last too long. But if they whiff on the quarterback, you're right, they're going to be in trouble for a long time if that happens.
In the NFL, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that wasn't the case, right? Like 20 years ago, you could have a mediocre quarterback. You could have Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer and win Super Bowls. Lots of guys in the 80s and 70s were not great quarterbacks that won Super Bowls because the game was different. But the game is designed such now, if you don't have a great quarterback, winning is virtually impossible. That's kind of where the game is. I mean, I look at Mahomes right now. I think 2 years in a row, Mahomes took the Chiefs to the Super Bowl, and in my opinion, clearly played teams that were more talented top to bottom. Like I look at the Eagles last year against the Chiefs, top to bottom, were clearly the more talented team. This year, the 49ers, in my opinion, top to bottom, were clearly the more talented team. But it didn't matter 2 years in a row because Mahomes is just awesome. And you can see the same for Brady, right? Brady went up against teams that were not as talented. Or had more talent. Sorry. Julian Edelman's a good player. Wes Welker, good player, but come on, those guys weren't all-star type. He won Super Bowls with those guys. I mean, he won Super Bowls with Otis Smith as his lead running back. Come on. Like
I think Antoine Smith. I think you're
Antoine Smith. What did I say? Otis Smith played in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Antoine Smith. And they had good defenses, and they had Bill Belichick, who was a master, in that era. Great guys figure out a way to do it with minimal talent around them. And so I think at the end of the day, the way the NFL is structured, if you have the quarterback, you can almost do anything. I mean, that's just and if you don't have the quarterback, you can do everything right, and it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Brady's supporting cast, his first Super Bowl was running back Antoine Smith. His receivers were Troy Brown and David Patton, and his tight end was Jermaine Wiggins. So not the
that's
greatest.
As pedestrian as it gets right there.
I know. Yeah. That defense was amazing. Brady in his first year was terrific. So it really, a quarterback makes a huge difference. And that's, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but on my awards page, where I give out my own MVP, I made Mahomes MVP this year, not Lamar Jackson, not Dak Prescott, because the Chiefs got the third seed in the playoffs. despite having nothing on offense, and you talk about Travis Kelce, like he was bad during the regular season. He had one great game against the Chargers, and that was it. Like he dropped everything in sight. Like his stats are just down. Like he looked decrepit. Rashee Rice was really their only game playmaker, and he was a rookie, and so he had his struggles at the beginning of the year with drops as well. And he got better, but still, like I feel like Mahomes dragged that team like kicking and screaming to the 3rd seed in the playoffs. I thought that was super impressive, so I would have given the MVP to him. And I know that he won the MVP the year before, which is kind of bizarre because Jalen Hurts was 14-1 as a starter, and like they lost the 2 games that he didn't play. So kind of was like, why wasn't he not MVP? But I thought Mahomes, there was a better case for him to be MVP this year rather than last year.
I obviously am biased in favor of Eagles, but I had no problem with Hurts getting it last year. I'm sorry, without Mahomes getting it. But I agree with you. I thought there's a stronger case for him to be MVP. If he was MVP last year, he definitely should have been MVP this year. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt about Mahomes. Yeah, I don't care. I don't even look at the stats. I just watch the games and go, this guy's carrying his team. He's awesome. The defense is good. The Chiefs' defense is very good. I'm not trying to crap on the defense, but if you take Mahomes off this team, if you swap Brock Purdy and Mahomes, and you put Mahomes on the Niners and Brock Purdy on the Chiefs, the Niners would go undefeated with Mahomes, and the Chiefs or Brock Purdy would struggle to make the playoffs. Like that's what I think.
Well, let me stop you right there. The Niners wouldn't have gone undefeated. They would have gone 16-1 because in the final regular season game, they would have lost to Carson Wentz and the spicy meatball Davis Allen. So not quite 17-16-1. No, but no, I agree. I totally agree with that. The Chiefs or the Niners would have been the best team in the NFL by far, like by a mile. And
maybe best team ever.
Right? Yeah. Seriously. I mean, if they played the starters in the final game, they could have made a case to go 20-0. So, I like definitely for sure. And then I would say like Andy Reid gets the most out of quarterbacks. So I think like I think he'd have Purdy playing somewhat well, or like maybe even better than he is now with the Niners. However, that receiving core, like he would not have Kittle. Oh, like Kelsey's there, but Kelsey in the regular season was bad. He would not have Debo. He would not have Brandon Ayuk. Even that offensive line was for the Chiefs. It was the tackles did not play that well. So, I still think like Andy Reid would have carried them to the playoffs. Like Alex Smith, like he took Alex Smith to the playoffs like every year. And I think that Purdy and Alex Smith, like they're pretty comparable. I think so.
I mean, Andy Reid's been doing that. I mean, we're looking back at this in the Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid era in the early 2000s. I think many people thought, okay, who is the bigger contributor to the success? And I think at the time it wasn't clear. Looking back, it's obvious now that McNabb overachieved and the Andy Reid was able to get the most out of McNabb. And I think what we're seeing now, Andy Reid's brilliance when he's got a guy like Mahomes. I mean, Andy Reid got the best out of AJ Feely and Michael Vick. I mean, like Andy Reid got a lot out of some players along the way he's been pretty impressive.
Yeah, I remember AJ Feely went 6-0 or 7-0 in 2002 when McNabb went down. So AJ Feely he had a great second half of the year that season. So I actually saw AJ Feely in a bar in Philly. I think I told the story before, but I saw him at a bar, and it was like 06 or 07. And my friends were like, "Hey, AJ Feely," he actually like came up to us, was super nice. And I was like we were talking for a little bit. I'm like, AJ, you really got screwed in Miami. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, when he went to Miami, that was the year that Ricky Williams went on tour with Lenny Kravitz, and Dave Wanstead was there. He's a terrible coach, and I rattled a couple things off. I'm like, yeah, this guy left in free agency. This guy got hurt, and he stopped. He's like, I really did get screwed over Miami. So that was funny. He's a good guy. He stopped and talked to us for 15 minutes. It was that's a cool guy. Yeah.
Anyway, all that to say, back to the salary cap. At the end of the day, I think teams can get away with it for a really long time, as long as you have an owner willing to spend money. Like that's the key. And some owners are not. A lot of owners don't want to spend money. And again, who am I to tell a billionaire what to do with their money? So I think that's sort of the situation.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. I think, I think the Saints will eventually have to bite the bullet. Like it's possible to keep spending like crazy if the team is bad. But yeah, Sue says nobody drafts in the first round like the Jets. Yeah. We'll see. Hopefully they draft well for Aaron Rodgers. Mike says big cap spending is also correlated to winning because if you have the big time quarterback, you have to pay him. Mahomes, Brady, Stafford all had big contracts. I think Mike also had a comment here. He says, if you don't have the quarterbacks to go all the way, why spend big money on other players? So spending over the cap is correlated, but not casual. I think right now, causal. I think that I think in the past you could have made the case like, yeah, you can win with bad quarterbacks, like you said, but this day and age, I think you need the quarterback. So I agree. Although I would try to construct a really good offensive line. Because once you get the quarterback, you want to make sure he's protected. So I think that's important, but like I agree otherwise.
I think I can make the case. I think you can make the case that if you have a great quarterback and a great offensive line, you could suck everywhere else. You could suck on defense and special teams and everywhere else and still be competitive.
Yeah. Definitely.
Now, if you suck on defense, you're not going to win a championship. You got to at least be mediocre to win, but I think you could be competitive even if you're terrible all around.
And look, I mean, we have the case for the opposite too. Like the Raiders this year, they had a great defense. They were top 5 in defensive EPA. They had great receivers, Josh Jacobs as running back, but they were weakest at quarterback with Aiden O'Connell and Jimmy Garoppolo, and then the offensive line, which is bad outside of Colton Miller. And they didn't make the playoffs. So I mean, you're right. Like you really need those two areas to be strong. Sue says Super Bowl 35, Kerry Collins versus Trent Dilfer. How could that possibly have happened?
I remember why I watched it. I remember it.
Yeah. I shout out to Dennis, our developer. I actually bet him that game. That was like one of the first bets I ever made because I was 18 then. I bet him that the Ravens would win. He bet the Giants, so I celebrated that win. He was my roommate back then, but now he's the site developer. But I mean, Kerry Collins was the number 1 pick in the draft. Like he was highly regarded, but he kind of fell off. Like he had a couple great years in Carolina, and then he sucked for a while. And then he kind of had this resurgence with the Giants. The Giants had a really good receiving core. They had Amani Tuber, Ike Hilliard, Jermaine, Joe Juravicious. They had Tiki Barber at running back. They had a really good team. So I could see why he did well. And then you had Dilfer. Obviously, he wasn't the starter to start the year. It was Tony Banks for the Ravens. And then Dilfer took over because he didn't throw any interceptions, whereas Tony Banks did. I think Tony Banks was the better quarterback, like, with arm strength and whatnot, but Dilfer just took care of the ball. And so that's all that team needed was with that, like one of the best defenses of all time.
Dilfer had been Dilfer had been a top 5 draft pick, by the Buccaneers in the 90s.
Yeah. And and he got benched for Sean King. I think he was Sean King's second round pick in 99. He was in the same class as McNabb and Culpepper.
He was the sixth quarterback taken in that draft.
Yep. And I mean, Sean King got them to the NFC Championship. So, but yeah, eventually they got Brad Johnson and they won the Super Bowl. So, the Buccaneers eventually won and the Ravens won with Dilfer. So
then they signed Elvis Grbac a month after the Super Bowl. They let Dilfer walk in free agency, signed Elvis Grbac to that was a huge contract. I remember at the time.
Yep.
And then how did Grbac last just a year or two before he retired, right?
Yeah, Grbac was not a good fit for the Ravens because it was the same thing as Tony Banks. Like he's better than Tony Banks, but he threw interceptions, and like that was what they didn't need. Like they needed a guy just to carry the ball. Now, like maybe you could find a better version of Dilfer, like someone like Jay Fiedler would have been better. Like back then, I don't know if you remember him. Like he was like the ultimate game manager. Like he got the Dolphins to the second round of the playoffs always. But yeah, I mean, if they would have kept Dilfer and like used that money that they signed Grbac to keep their defense, to keep maintaining the defense, I think they could have won another Super Bowl. So, although they would have bumped into the Patriots eventually. So
yeah, Jamal Adams was awesome. That might have been. I'm trying to think. Maybe there were other teams but I think that the 2000 Ravens really is the last team of like traditional NFL era. Like they're the last team to win a title in the way that was like, that's the way it was done for 70 years in the NFL, or 80, right? The, strong power running game with a running back and defense. Defense wins championships, like all of that kind of mentality. Like the Ravens are really like and in the moment we didn't realize it, but like things started to change after that. But I think it was several years before people realized it.
Do you remember who the Ravens running back was?
Wasn't it Jamal Adams that year?
Or you mean Jamal Lewis?
Oh, sorry. Who? Jamal Lewis. What was that? Did I say Jamal Adams?
Yeah.
Jamal Adams is a safety.
Yeah.
Jamal Lewis from Tennessee.
Actually, it wasn't Jamal Lewis. It was Priest Holmes was the Ravens running back.
Wait a minute. I thought Jamal Lewis didn't he score a touchdown in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, but Priest Holmes was the starter. And Lewis was a rookie, and they were kind of working him in. Priest Holmes is the starting running back for that team, at least to start the year. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. They had those two great running backs in the backfield, and like Jonathan Ogden leading the way. Ogden's like the biggest human being I've ever seen in person, by the way. Like Charlie and I saw him when we were in Miami for the Super Bowl, and like he was, for some reason, like we were always like around where he was, and so like I like Charlie was joking, like, oh, you should take the cup behind him on the table, and you can say that you beat Jonathan Ogden, like you got past them. Like Jonathan Ogden would have like crushed me into a ball and like threw me off the roof. Had it done that.
I'm looking at that. He led Jamal Lewis had 1364. He led the team in rushing that year.
Okay. So, well, yeah, Priest Holmes started the year as the starter. I remember because Lewis was a rookie, and then I guess Lewis took over. But yeah, Priest Holmes he was a big part of that team too.
That's funny. Then he went to the Chiefs a year later, right? 2 years later.
Yeah. Mike says, I was just thinking about that. Slew Dilfer was probably the last mediocre quarterback. Well, what about Brad Johnson? I think that the 2002 Buccaneers may have been the last team.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 2 years later. That's right. The Buccaneers won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because they ran with Allstott and Warwick Dunn. Like Dunn was a change of pace guy. Allstott like pounded the ball.
Actually, Warwick Dunn wasn't on the team anymore. It was Michael Pittman was their leading rusher that year.
I think Warwick Dunn was still there.
Yeah, Warwick Dunn, I'm pretty sure had left in free agency by that point.
I'm gonna look it up right now. I think Dunn was still there, but I could be wrong. Let's see.
He was at 2002 season. It was his first year in Atlanta.
Okay, I stand corrected. Okay, yeah, it was Pittman. Okay, it was Pittman. Yeah, Allstott was. I guess Pittman had more carries than Allstott actually. But yeah, it was Keyshawn Johnson, Keenan McCardell. Yeah. Okay, so interesting. But yeah, that defense was the
defense was awesome, right? Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, and
Simeon Rice, John Lynch, Rondé Barber. Yeah, Booger McFarland, of course.
I still have nightmares of Rondé Barber intercepting Donovan McNabb in the end zone.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that was I bet the Eagles that game, and the Eagles are favored by 4, and they lost outright. I thought that playoff run they should have kept going with Feely, even though obviously he was a much worse quarterback than McNabb, but I thought McNabb was not going to be 100% coming back from that injury. I thought they rushed him back, and like I think it was clear in that game that he was not healthy. So maybe they still lose with. Maybe they still lose with Feely
just 6 weeks earlier, right? I mean,
yeah. Maybe they still lose with Feely, but at least you have a healthy quarterback, you know.
Oh man, we would be roasting the guy. I mean, he played really well in the week before, against the Falcons.
20-6, I think they won.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's hard to say. Yeah, man. Those are forever. Thank God for 2017.
Yeah.
The early 2000s was a heartbreaking time to be an Eagles fan.
Yeah, four losses. Well, no, was it 3? No, 3 losses in a row, and then they won the 4th one, right? That was yes.
Where they lost in the Super Bowl, of course, to Brady. But
yep, of course.
So yeah, it's just a different era, right? I mean, yeah, I said it was the Dilfer team that will, but whoever made the comment, it's the Brad Johnson team, right? 2 years later. That's probably because in 03, 04, it's Brady. 05, it's Roethlisberger. Right. 06, it's Manning. And pretty much from there on, you've got Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady.
Don't forget Eli Manning. Eli Manning taking 2 and Nick Foles.
That's Eli played great in the playoff, even though he was mediocre for most of his career. He played great in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then of course you got the GOAT, the true GOAT, Nick Foles in that mix.
Yeah, we're talking about Mahomes, taking Mahomes first overall. I don't know. I think maybe take Nick Foles. Uh, Brad Johnson versus Rich Gannon, another great Super Bowl pairing. Well, I thought Rich Gannon was, for a few years, he was terrific. I thought.
Yeah, and he was the MVP of the year, like MVP of the league that year, right?
Yep. And the Raiders almost lost to the Titans that year with Steve McNair, but the Titans fumbled like 3 times on special teams to give that game away. I thought the Titans had a really good chance to win that game. And the Titans had a really great team that year too. And the Titans wouldn't have had the disadvantage of the Buccaneers knowing all their plays like the Raiders had. So I think that would have been a much more interesting Super Bowl, Buccaneers Titans. Like it would have been like a very low scoring, grinded out game. But that Buccaneer team, like their only weakness was the power running game. Like that year they got swept by the Saints and Deuce McAllister because McAllister just ran all over them. And I think like Eddie George could have had a really good game against them, and I think it would have been interesting. But we'll never know, I guess. We could
the pride of Archbishop. Isn't George a Ryan grad? No, he was or Archbishop Wood. One of those Catholic schools in Philly Eddie George went to.
He went to went to Abington Senior High School.
Abington.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, that's right around the corner for me, so that's pretty cool. All right, so it's 11:30. I know you have to go. I said in the description we're going to talk about TV shows. But I think we're running out of time, so we could save that till next week. Go.
I can tell you quick. My recent TV watching is 100% governed and informed by my wife. Any TV show I want to watch, we don't watch because she doesn't want to watch them. And so, the shows we've been watching recently are Reacher. Have you seen Reacher at all?
My wife has seen it. Is it good?
No, it's fine. Reacher. What's the other one we've been watching she loves? We just watched the 4th season of True Detective. It was pretty mediocre.
I heard
but my wife loved it.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters. And we've been watching the show called Bridgerton, which is like I just fall asleep in because it's this like girl. Anyway, so not a very exciting slew of shows on my docket.
It's like the inaccurate, like medieval type stuff. Bridgerton, Is that what that is? Yeah. My wife got really into that too. She said I'd like it, so I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like my wife I feel like our tastes have kind of like diverged because I tried to get her to watch Quantum Leap and she didn't like it. I was like, how dare you? I watched a show called The Island, I-Land. On Netflix. It's 7 episodes. It's 1 season, 7 episodes. So you can get through it very quickly. It's kind of like the premise is it's kind of like Lost. Like these 10 people wake up on an island, and they're all 39 steps apart from each other. And they wake up with like everyone has a possession. Like one person has a knife, one person has like a shell, or one person has like something else. But they all have something, but they can't remember they can't remember who they are at all. The only thing they have is they're all wearing the same clothes, and like on the back of their shirt is their name. And so it is kind of like Lost. You have that dynamic where like they're trying to survive on the island, but there's some crazy twists to it. There's no like black smoke monster or anything, but there's stuff like indigenous to the island and stuff like that, and like the island itself is kind of this its own thing, kind of like it was in Lost. And it's 7 episodes. I would say like my only criticism is like the main actress is while she's like super attractive, I don't think she's a really good actress. But I still think it was a really good show, and like there was the one twist in the final episode. It kind of like maybe like super depressed. I was like, oh my God, really? Like this is what happened. And I was like, it's really good. It kind of made me think about it. And like, it's like with the show, I've been thinking about it. And I was just kind of like, based on what happened at the end, I'm like, oh, I should have seen that coming because of that and that. But yeah, I recommend it. It's only, like I said, 7 episodes, so you can get through it quickly and we can talk about it soon.
All right. I'm putting it up. I was just looking it up right now. I was just pulling up, well, again, I'm gonna have to see if my wife wants to watch it. If my wife doesn't want to watch it,
well, you could tell it's only 7 episodes, so you can at least give it a shot.
All right, we'll see how it goes before we end up watching another episode of Love It or List It on home. What's on the HDTV?
Nice. Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun.
There's a lot
But
of
yeah.
HDTV happening in the Ortiz home.
Well, I know you have to go, so I won't keep you too long. Thanks so much for everyone for commenting, listening, and thanks so much for Kevin for this $25 super chat. Really
Kevin's
appreciate
the
it.
real one.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you, Kevin, so much. But yeah, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store, and go to thecapIsfake.com. This is Kenny's website. There's a lot of great articles on it. If you haven't read them, I highly recommend it. Do you have anything else you want to add, or you want to head out?
That's it, man. Hey, I'm a man of the people. I apologize I wasn't here. I can't believe I got sick. I'm not getting sick anymore. I'm a man of the people.
That's it. You're done.
My Diet Coke will keep me healthy.
Nice. Yeah, that aspartame is surely going to keep you from getting sick. So, all right, guys, we're going to be back tomorrow with Tom. As always, our Thursday shows are crazy. So, looking forward to that. And then Saturday we'll be back as well. Jacob will be back on Tuesday with Charlie. We're going to do a mock draft. So can't wait. So that's our schedule here. But yeah, once again, thanks so much, guys, and I'll talk to you next time.